Okay, so in this lecture, I'm going to introduce and explain the concept of a sinking fund and how we are going to use that with the concept of an annuity and withdrawals to solve problems. Okay, so the first thing I want you to do is I want you to think about what happens if you purchase a machine today. So you purchase a machine today and you purchase that machine for an amount X. So this is the price of the machine now. Okay. What happens to the value of your machine as time goes on? So as time goes on, if I go from now and I go n years in the future, what is happening to the value of this machine? The value of this machine depreciates with time. What that means is that the value of my machine decreases with time at some rate. This here is going to reduce in value, and it's going to reduce in value at some depreciation rate that I call I subscript D, which is a depreciation rate that is a per annum rate. So this is called a depreciation rate. Okay, and after n years, the value of this machine will depreciate at this rate until it reaches some value here at Tn. Now, this rate here can either be, we can either look at depreciation in terms of simple depreciation. If it's simple depreciation, then the rate is 1 minus the depreciation rate multiplied by the time period, and that is what the value of my machine will be if it is straight line depreciation. So straight line depreciation, or it's sometimes called simple depreciation, and it's analogous to simple interest because you can see that the number of years is multiplied to the interest rate. So that's one way to do it. The other way to do it is to work it out on the reducing balance. So it's called the reducing balance, or it is called the compound depreciation. And that says that it's 1 minus the depreciation rate to the power of n, which is the number of years that this machine has depreciated. Notice here that my n is in years and my depreciation rate is a yearly rate. Okay, now let's think about if I know that the machine at t naught, before I get there, let's just go for completion's sake. What is this here called? This here is called it has many names. One name that we often use, actually, that you'll see in a lot of the questions, it's called the scrap value. It's also called the trade-in value, or it's sometimes called the resale value. And when does this happen? This happens n years from now. This is n years from now. So now the price of my machine is X. When it depreciates with time, it can either depreciate on the straight line basis or on the reducing balance basis. And what this value here that I've highlighted in purple is called the scrap value or the trade-in value or the resale value. And this happens n years from now. And that is how I calculate the value of an old machine. So this here is the value of an old machine. Okay, now say I do know that the price at T naught is X. Now when I'm buying the vehicle, this is the price. Okay, so say I know that N years from now, the machine that I have currently is going to reduce in value. And so I won't be able to get the amount that I purchased it for. I'm going to get something less. So the machine that I purchased now, what will the price of that same machine be in the future if I want to purchase a new vehicle? What will the price of a new machine be? What will the price of the new machine be at some value in the future? So n years from now, what will the price be? Obviously, this is going to increase. The price here is going to increase with time. With inflation, that is going to increase. And it's going to increase at some rate that we call the appreciation rate. That is called the appreciation rate. And appreciation means that it is increasing with time. Appreciation rate. It is increasing with time. And so, what is the value in the future? The value in the future is the original value, and it's going to be 1 plus the appreciation rate to the time period. And again, you should notice here that my time period is in years and my interest rate is yearly. Okay, so what we now have is the price, excuse me, that is the price of a new machine. And when is this taking place? It's taking place n years from now. Okay, so that is how we formulate the price of a new machine at some point in the future. Now, what you should be seeing is that whatever you resell your vehicle for here, you're going to get a certain amount that is less than the original amount that you paid. But you cannot purchase a new machine at the same amount. That machine has now increased with time to this new price. So you are going to need an additional amount of money in order to make this new purchase because you are going to have a shortfall here. So in the next slide, I'm going to show you how to formulate that calculation. Okay, so if I want to purchase a new machine, I'm going to require an additional amount of money. So the additional amount that I need to make a new purchase at some point in the future is going to be equal to the price of my new machine, the price of what the new machine costs, minus the value of my old machine. That should be fairly straightforward to understand, right? Whatever a new machine costs, if I take away the value of my old machine, meaning the amount that I can get for my old machine, the difference between the two is what I need. So if I input what we've formulated these as, that's x1 plus the appreciation rate to the n minus x1 minus the depreciation rate to the n. And this difference here is the amount that I need in my account in order to make that new purchase. Now, if I know that this is the amount that I need, this is the amount that I'm going to need in the future, what I can do today is I can set up a sinking fund. I can set up a sinking fund so that at some point in the future, I have this amount. That is what I'm trying to do. At some time in the future, I have that same amount in my account, and so I'm able to purchase the new machine. So we set up something called a sinking fund. Okay, a sinking fund is a savings annuity. It is a savings annuity. It's called a specific name because it is a specific savings annuity where I set money aside at regular intervals in time. And the reason why I'm doing this is that I want to fund the purchase of a new asset in the future. I want to fund the purchase of a new asset in the future because I know that I'm going to have a shortfall. This is the shortfall that I'm going to have. In order to recover the shortfall, I set up this fund now so that I can purchase this new machine at some point in the future. And so that is why it is called a sinking fund. Okay, so my sinking fund is just an annuity. Okay, it's just an annuity where I make regular deposits. I make regular deposits up until some point in the future, and whatever this lump sum is here, whatever this lump sum is here, needs to be the same as this difference here so that I'm able to purchase that new machine, so that I recover the shortfall. But something else could happen, okay? Something else could happen to complicate this process. And that comes into to effect if I need to make provision within the sinking fund. If within the sinking fund, I need to make provision for regular withdrawals, okay? And specifically, the withdrawals take on the form of the withdrawals here take on the form of money that I'm withdrawing from that account to maintain my current vehicle. So this current vehicle that I have, I need to maintain it from year to year, or from month to month, or from half year to half year. Whatever that may be, I'm going to be making withdrawals. Let's call that withdrawals PT star. And say I make them every other interval. I need to make provision within my sinking fund so that I'm able to withdraw regular amounts of PT star in order to maintain the new vehicle, in order to maintain the vehicle that I have currently. Okay, and so this annuity, the maintenance annuity, is its own annuity. Okay, and so you need to be able to set up that annuity as well. Okay, so both of these annuities, so this annuity, I'll have a future value in my maintenance annuity, which takes place at the last T, and I'll have a future value in my sinking fund that takes place at the point of the last deposit. Now, what's important is that you can see from this diagram, the period that I'm making withdrawals differs from the period that I'm making deposits. Okay, and in such a case, I need to find the equivalent effective interest rates. So I'll need the interest rates specific for the deposits, and I will also need the interest rates that are specific for the withdrawals. Okay, and so now I can formulate what needs to happen in different ways. So the price of my new machine, how am I going to recover the price of my new machine? I'm going to have the value of my old machine. That's what I'm going to have, right? That is the amount that I can resell my current vehicle for N years from now after it's depreciated with time, and I'll get a certain amount. But because I will be short of that, I need some other amount of money. And what I've done is I set up a sinking fund. I set up a sinking fund, which is just a savings annuity. Okay. And I set up the sinking fund so that I have that shortfall. So whatever the amount in my account is at the value of at the time of my last deposit, which is the future value, I add that to the value of my old machine, and then these two together should encompass the price of my old machine. However, if I make withdrawals from that sinking fund in order to maintain this old machine, then what I need to do is I need to subtract the future value of my withdrawals annuity. And remember that this withdrawals annuity was specifically for maintenance. And if I add all of these things together, if I add these two and subtract the maintenance, the future value of my maintenance annuity, that should be the amount that I need to purchase a new machine. Now I can formulate this differently, so I can formulate it in many ways. That's the first way. The second way is just to rearrange the formula. The price of my old machine minus the value of my new machine is just the future value of my savings annuity minus the future value of my withdrawals annuity. And that calculation, as you can see, I've just rearranged equation 1. I can think about it also in terms of income and expenditure. So if I say income is equal to expenditure, which of the terms are incomes and which of the terms are expenditure? Okay, clearly the value of my old machine, that is an income. Okay, the value of my old machine is an income. If I add to that the future value of my savings annuity, that is also an income. Okay, those incomes should equal to my expenses. What are my expenses? My first expense is the price of my new machine, and if I add to that the expense of maintaining my old vehicle, my old machine, then that is another expense, which is the future value of my withdrawals annuity. And that is again the same formulation as one. I've just rearranged the formula. Okay, then let's look at a last formulation. Again, it's just rearranging the formulas. It's just my points of view are different here. The last one is if I work out the future value of my savings annuity. What is the future value of my savings annuity? It is the amount that I need to have in my account in order to overcome that shortfall. And what is that amount going to be? It's going to be the price of my new machine. And from there, I need to deduct the value of my old machine. And I also need to I also need to add rather the future value of my withdrawals annuity. And those things together, if I add those things together, that should sum to the future value of my savings annuity. And so what I've shown you now is 4 different formulations in order to find um, the price of my new machine. And all of those 4 should result in you getting the same answer. And so that's the end of my explanation for a sinking fund and how it manifests itself in financial maths. In the next video, I will explain this further by means of an example.